Okay, I remembered. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, Renee or Carol, who'd like to go first? Both of you are going to be kind towards one another. Just jump in. Oh, Renee, there you go. The D just took over.
I'm just, you can go, Carol. That's my eye. Carol.
No, I'm not ready.
Internal struggle.
No, I'm not ready. You go for it.
So yes, I came back from a fabulous trip. Gosh, Layla, all this uncovering and just raising up of my D. I just want to piggyback off of Lisa. It's not like I had a lot of positive communication wins, but yeah, the awareness, this trip. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, just gotta make sure my husband's not around. So it's the secret, don't tell. But just the fact that, right, realizing why I get so impatient. Just there's 2 weeks of real closeness. We haven't spent that much time, and so I'm just really gonna have to lean into how to communicate to C's and just be patient. So that the positive thing, the win is I didn't explode. I kept it all inside.
That is a win, but I hope you were able to somehow let it out so that it didn't like eat you up at all.
No, that's why I pray in the spirit.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's why I need this. I just need the communication techniques.
Yeah. Really good. Really good. Okay. We are going to go into a breakout room. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold each other accountable. You don't have a lot of time. So you probably have about, maybe 2.5, 3 minutes each. And what I want you to do is you are going to share with your partner. I'm going to open the rooms. If you don't see a sign that you have a room, that means you're staying here with me. But I want you to, so don't click it. When you see it, don't click it. I'm going to give you instructions, okay? Actually, I should put that in the chat. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put these in the chat. Oh, shoot. I had it all queued up and then I had to copy and paste the Zoom link and that kind of messed me up. Hang on 1 second, guys. Okay, forget it. It's not easy. It's not hard. You're going to tell your partner, what your communication goal is while you're going through this masterclass. Okay, this is how we do like our check-ins, right? We used to do these check-ins before. We're just doing it now. You're going to tell them what it is you're working on and how you're doing. Where are you in this process? Okay, we kind of shared a little bit now. I want you to go a little bit more into depth. And then as a partner, you're going to ask them, how can I best help you accomplish that goal? Okay, how can I best help you accomplish that goal? And then you're going to switch places. When you get in your room, don't worry about who goes first and people I'll go first. Just say, I'll go first, right? Whoever's going to jump in there. Okay. You're going to have 2.5 minutes each, not a lot of time. So jump in right away. Okay. Jocelyn, you're going to stay with me. And I'm going to set the timer so I don't lose track of time. Oops. Stopwatch. Here we go. Okay. What is your communication goal again? For me to know?
For you to know is just to communicate well without stressing out and getting emotional.
Recording. We're all going to start jumping in about a minute, 10 seconds.
Okay.
So, and hopefully the takeaway here is just tools that you can use to help you, do it better. We all need tools, every single one of us. So stop, reset. Okay, good job. Did you guys have enough time? Okay, good. All right, good. Nam is not feeling well. She's really, really sick. So let's just lift her up in prayer, okay? So I'm going to start the PowerPoint. Oh, I forgot. I have to do the, oh, wait. Oh my gosh, I'm multitasking. Somebody stop me quick. Okay, let me move to share screen optimization. And ta-da! Everybody just give me a clap. Yes, thank you. I'm so proud of myself. I got us to where we need to be. Yeah, round of applause from Robert. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm sure, guys, that we can all admit that drama exists in some degree or another around our lives in some context, right? It's unavoidable, even if you're not directly connected or involved with it. And I think we can all agree that often we only recognize something as drama when it gets out of control. It's out of hand already because we're so busy, we don't see it coming. Now, how many would say that communicating through drama moments would not be top of your list? Like you don't wake up going, I hope to deal with some drama today, right? Yet, for things to work out in a healthy way, the way we communicate during drama moments is critical. Wouldn't you guys agree? Right? Okay. How things are communicated, the method or the protocols we use can either make the situation worse or better. Yet, how many of us have had conversations or trainings on how to make a drama situation better? It's not too many, unless we're talking to a friend because the drama is already rapidly taking over. So I'm going to guess that doesn't happen for many of us taking classes that are talking about these things. And you know what, with the younger generation coming into the workforce and with them showing up with their whole selves, which includes their emotions too, it becomes increasingly necessary to have these kinds of trainings. And to do that, we need to first analyze and dissect what creates drama. We have to understand how it starts to unfold and play out before we can actually accomplish the goal of communicating through it. So, most communication breakdowns happen when there is an expectation in a situation, right? You're expecting something to happen, you're expecting somebody to respond a certain way, and there's a gap that exists when you experience the reality of what you actually get in that situation. You have an expectation, and then you have the reality of what happens. They have an expectation, and there's a reality of how it happens for them. So there are so many factors that contribute to that gap between the expectation and the reality. We learn through our DISC assessment, right? That as a personality type, Lisa, you did it perfectly talking about it. You know exactly why you were trying to expedite the process. You were trying to make it better for everybody's experience. That's what a D does. So we have our perceived intentions as a certain personality type, but our delivery doesn't actually reveal those accurate intentions. So that could be a contributing factor. Other factors are the way that we were brought up. We talked about personality profile, our inner beliefs. We talked about that in the first week. We also are going to be talking in the next couple of weeks. For 2 weeks, we're going to dedicate ourselves to this, about the different generation gaps and how they all show up and the way that communication breaks down and how we can make those bridges. But that's a determining factor for that gap between intentions and realities. And here's the thing. If we don't deal with it, if your people on your team don't deal with it, resentment can set in. Right? And you won't even know resentment set in because people don't talk about it. They're not going to say, I feel resentment towards you today, right? They're not going to say that. And then drama sets into your team in your life because that resentment creates the behaviors. What happens is people will start to restrict each other from their discretionary goodwill. No matter what the other person does, they can't get back into their good graces, right? And then people will start to look for ways to get revenge. We won't help each other out. We talk about them behind their back. We try to pit other people against them so they feel sorry for us because we see ourselves as the victim in the situation, right? So we go from resentment to restriction. Here's an example of restriction. You know, you're driving on the freeway on the right lane and somebody merges in, they cut you off, they almost hit the front of your car. So what happens is you move over to the next lane and there they are making the blinker signs because they're going to come in again. And what do? You speed up. No way, I'm restricting your passage into this lane because I'm like getting some revenge here. You know, that's a mild way of saying something that happens all the time in this cycle on the freeway. Now, last week, guys, we talked about 3 or 4 pillars that you had, or 4 areas that you had that represented parts of your life, your personal life, your family, your workplace, and possibly church service or civil commitment, because you have to interact with people there. So we're going to use that later today. So I want you to pull that out if you have that with you. If not, just pull up another sheet which represents that. But it should have the names of people in these categories. That's what we're looking for. And the things that we are observing about certain personality types and their emotional intelligence levels. We're going to take it a step further today. Now this week, sorry, I took a pause to make sure we're recording. This week, we're going to discuss 4 pillars to drama. These are the manifestations of resentment. How do you know resentment's residing within your work office? How do you know resentment's in your family? These are the 4 pillars of the way that it manifests. And they're very closely associated with debt. Debt, the thing that says there is an invisible line of demarcation between me and you. And if you cross it, you are now at a deficit. And so drama starts to come in. I have resentment. I am restricting you, and drama starts to set in, and it needs to get out of our lives, our workplace, and our homes. And I talk often about taking responsibility for ourselves and the results in our own life, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for my attitude, my thoughts, my feelings, my actions. I'm responsible for me completely. So for those walking in a greater level of awareness, a higher level of emotional intelligence, I think it's important to establish a baseline here. When managing conflict, the question I have for you is, who is responsible when there's conflict? Who's responsible when there's conflict? Well, here's the answer. The one with the greatest awareness level is responsible for that conflict. That doesn't mean you cause the conflict. It means you are responsible to diffuse it and to try to connect with the person instead of allowing it to exist, because you're operating at a higher level of awareness. See, I'm responsible for everything that shows up in my life. And I have to be, because it's my life. I put myself here. Sometimes when people look at situations that I'm in and they go, wow, I can't believe you have to do this or you have to put up with it. I say, wait a second. My entire life, this is really how I believe, my entire life is a culmination of every decision I've made along the way. This is the result of it. So I am fully responsible, and I don't feel at all, diminished by it. I feel empowered by that realization, because then I'm in charge of changing it. Now, I may not be at fault for something. I mean, I had no control over the things that are done to me or happened to me when I was growing up, right? I didn't choose to be neglected in so many different ways, but I'm responsible for me 100% of the time right now, right? And the problem is, if I'm not responsible for being the way that I am right now, then the rest of the world has got to go to the doctors or a therapist to get themselves right before I can even be okay in my world. Well, I'm going to be waiting forever, aren't I? And that's just not going to happen. So I got to take 100% responsibility for me. I'm not going to put it on somebody else. I'm going to take it for me. And you might be wondering what this has to do with communication, because that's what this masterclass is about. And I'm going to say everything. If we understand what is going on in the unconscious mind, if we understand everything that happens to us is our responsibility, what we allow, what we don't allow, if we can spot the signs of drama, growing and festering around us, we can use our communication skills to nip it in the bud before it becomes a full-blown problem. And it starts with us first. It doesn't start with your mother or your father. It doesn't start with your spouse or your coworker or employee. It starts with us. So let's look at how drama starts so we can recognize the behaviors right away. The 4 pillars holding drama in place is when people jump to conclusions. So they just developed resentment. Why? Because they jump to a conclusion, right? Then they get offended and then they make stuff up and they ignore any noble intention of the other party. See, whenever you or those around you engage in any one of these 4 behaviors, you are likely exhibiting resentment. And so the first thing that happens is we jump to conclusions. We jump to conclusions. We play the this means that game. So we jump to the conclusion that, oh, you know what that means, right? This means that. Did you see that email he sent? Well, you know what that means, right? Did you hear what she said? Oh, you know what that means, right? We jump to conclusions. And jumping to conclusions is an internal process of thinking about external circumstances and conditions. It's about assumptions and judgments of others. It's the know-it-all syndrome. We jump to conclusions because we think we know it all. Based on our beliefs and our thought patterns, we become trapped in our way is the only way. But the problem is, it's really hard to stop that energy if we let it go rampant, because energy does 2 things. It either expands and it expresses itself. And if it can no longer express itself in its current form, it's going to transform into a completely different form. So what happens is once we say, you know what that means, right? Because this energy is looking to expand, this negative energy inside us. Remember I told you guys, the frequency you operate is the frequency you attract to yourself. Or I say you attract to yourself the frequency you operate at. Well, because this negative energy we're in is looking to expand, now we are looking to get offended. That's pillar number 2. We are looking to get offended. And this is when someone is overly sensitive and they are just looking for reasons to be offended. I mean, they want some proof to back up why they are jumping to conclusions and having resentment to begin with, right? They walk into the restaurant, they're looking for bad service, right? They are looking to be left out of a group. They are looking for their boss to ignore them or to yell at them. They are looking for a derogatory comment to give them a reason to be offended. You know, my boss, he is the worst. You know what that means, right? That means now I have to go to MSU. I have to go to the University of Make Stuff Up. And pretty soon I have a doctorate degree at MSU, making stuff up. Jumping to conclusions. That means that this means that, right? Jumping to conclusions creates offense, and then I make stuff up. And that is where I assign a meaning. Now I've given purpose to this offense. So I've added more and more to the story to support my jumping to a conclusion. MSU is about the story we tell in our own head. We're not having the conversation necessary to communicate to the person that this is directed at. It's about our own limiting beliefs that are playing out in this scenario, whether it's about what we believe about ourselves or other people. It's about our own judgments. And this morning, I can talk about this in this group. I'm praying, I'm doing my morning prayer walk, I'm praying in the spirit, and the Lord just convicts my heart about, I've been judgmental and I didn't know I was doing it. I can tell you every time I teach a lesson, he teaches me first. It has to go with the person first, and then we help other people. So it happens all the time to us. It is the ultimate paradigm driving thinking. So You know why he sent that email, right? You know why he called that meeting, right? It's like the other day when he made me do, and then we start to make stuff up. He made me do extra assignments. He is after me. He doesn't like me. He's a terrible boss. And this belief is now rearing its head and driving my actions. And we do this all the time. We do it in a nanosecond. It's like a superpower. So in a bad way. Like, you know, those superheroes that are like going awry. So we make stuff up about people's intentions, their motives, and we look for anything that will back that conclusion up. And we're not just even aware, and we're not even aware we're doing it. Last week, I talked about how when we are having stress, the cortisol level goes up, the front part of our brain that has executive thinking function shrinks, the amygdala opens up, and now all these belief systems start to engage. And this is why we start having these nanosecond thoughts and behaviors. And we're just digging a hole of resentment. That's all we're doing. The only way we can jump into this conclusion and make stuff up is if you do not declare noble intent of the other person. Not declaring noble intent of the other person means we view people and their words and their actions as automatically vindictive or out to get us. Maybe not really overtly, but very subtly in the back of our brain, we may have a vindictive view of them. Not declaring noble intent is always assuming the worst in people. In this pillar, you expect to be let down. You expect to be hurt. You expect to be cheated out of whatever is rightfully yours. As a leader, this is where we want to help people to remember that choosing good intentions instead of drama is a choice. The way that I do that is I believe, in my personal life, is that I believe everyone is doing the very best they can wherever their level of awareness is. And they have a model of the world. Every single person has a model of the world that fits their belief, and so it fits their behavior. Every single one of us can be intentional in using our time and thought energy to be productive and create the life that we want to live. And it starts with reversing this behavior that we are believing noble intent to the best of somebody's ability, and we're not jumping to conclusions, we're not making stuff up. And guess what? This kind of behavior, right, of not believing noble intent, this kind of behavior comes from a belief, like I said, way back in some timeline when we were kids. Something happened that created an emotional response, which then created a belief about ourselves or about others. And when I've already walked us through this, but I want us to remember this about other people. This is why I can walk around going, people are doing the very best they can because they're operating under the same beliefs I've been. It's just that I have enough awareness to know how to deal with it. They don't. And so I can't judge them for that. That's the best that they can operate, right? And this is where we use our emotional intelligence, guys, and intercept this pattern. Use your ability to be self-aware and examine what is going on emotionally for you as you're processing the drama you're starting to see unfold around you. Now, I'm going to open up this box so I can see your faces, and we're going to start writing, okay? Now, before we can help someone on our team or recognize within ourselves as a leader, I want you to take some time right now. You're going to pull out that sheet I talked about. Make sure that you have that. And we want to ask ourselves a couple of things. I'm gonna actually reduce this, stop share. Hang on. Robert, are you there with us? Okay, so I'm going to share this in the chat. Okay. And I want you to take some time. You're going to take some time. I want you to look at this. I want you to look at your life. Look at whom you're associating with. I want you to look at who's around you, where you're putting your energy. These are some questions you might want to ask yourself before getting involved in any existing drama or even starting one unknowingly. You can look at the names and the categories of the people that you wrote down on that list from yesterday or last week, excuse me. You know, we were talking about identifying their emotional intelligence. I want you to take some time to write and reflect. If you're involved in drama or the beginnings of it, and you don't even realize it until now, until we're talking about it, because it takes processing, right? What drama do you have in your life today? Are any of them in the pillars that we wrote out last week? Where is it? Pay attention to which people are close by when the drama comes around. Maybe there's a certain person that triggers you. Maybe there's a certain person that walks in drama, okay? Am I doing, saying, or thinking anything that's perhaps contributing to this drama of any level? Even in the smallest way, like I told you this morning, I didn't realize, actually it came out of a conversation actually between a person and I. So I had to call that person up right away and start to talk to them about, once the Lord revealed to me that I was making assumptions of no noble intent, not having noble intent. And so I had to call that person and work that out. So where is any of that operating in your life, where, especially in significant relationships? You were supposed to write your 4 columns yesterday. Do you have that paper? Did you write? Not yesterday, last week, sorry. During our session, do you remember the paper where you wrote work, family, personal, and maybe church service or something? And then you were supposed to put names down of people in those sectors that you're having challenges with, so that you could recognize their emotional intelligence level as we walk through it. That's the paper. So you want to just pull the same thing out. We're using that same paper to go through these questions. Are we contributing to drama and we don't know what we didn't know it? Anyway, just take 5 minutes and reflect on that. Who is involved, if you have to look at that? How can you stop that behavior? No, the paper was not emailed to you. That was something I just had them pull out and write. Sorry, Renee, you were still in Italy enjoying your villa. So you just want to pick out people that you've been having like conflict with, even if they're not aware. They may not even be aware you're having conflict. You're keeping it to yourself. They just might be rubbing you wrong, right? And so look at some of the things we're talking about in this segment and how are you impacting them. We got to talk about us first, then we're going to talk about how to help other people, how to have those communication moments. Sometimes this is the hard work, right? And personal development is not for wimps. It makes us have to look at ourselves. So you guys are very courageous. Superheroes for sure. I'm gonna give you one more minute. Okay. Now, you guys have heard me say over and over again, you attract attract the frequency that you operate at, right? And I will tell you that when you recognize this pattern, and then you can really step into recognizing that people are just doing the best that they can, and you're not jumping to their intentions in terms of, any kind of ill intent at all, you will start to see the people that you might be struggling with shift, because you're no longer projecting that frequency. And so there's a lot to this, right? More than we can recognize. And it really is about the frequency we choose to operate in. So once we can look at our own contributions and then change them, then we can help those. I want to make sure I'm on the right slide. Then we can help those around us to identify how they can make the assumption, if they're making assumptions about someone's intent. Listen, it's not helpful for the company culture to talk about somebody's intentions, right? To jump to conclusions about them when you haven't asked them personally, right? It's not helpful for any organization or culture. I mean, this means we automatically don't trust the person. And this is then our opportunity to approach things differently. So what does this mean for those who are more aware? That's what we're working towards, awareness. So we can first develop our own growth and then help the people around us as leaders. So if you're the boss, right? If you're the boss, or you hire vendors, service people, staff, if you interact with someone and we say right at the start that they have to earn our trust, let me reduce this for you so you can read, that they have to earn our trust, right? That's what we're saying, because we are already declaring that they don't have noble intent. And they already started behind when we do that. They're at a deficit. And we've been taught, because you've heard people say, right, you need to earn my trust. Well, there's elements where that has to happen, but that's like a little further down the road. When you're meeting with somebody, when you're leading a team, when you have to hire somebody, if you're saying that right off the bat, it's not helping them accomplish their goal. So we come in with the immediate conclusion that they are untrustworthy and they don't stand a chance. We are already keeping score and looking for the failure. You're expecting them to fail, and it's a losing game for both you and them from the start. And people around you are doing this all the time. Recognize the signs. They're doing this around you all the time, and someone has to break the cycle. So I work hard claiming noble intent from the start. I'm going to start that you are trustworthy, that you're honest, and that your intent is right. I've gone into interviews looking to hire people like this. You've got 100% of my trust. Now, can they lose it? Absolutely. They can lose the trust. But starting out, they have 100% of my trust. I believe everything they say. And I do think in the back of my head, I've gone through this before where they said they did this, they said this, and they didn't, right? But when I start a new relationship, a new vendor, I'm interviewing a new person they have 100% of my belief, my trust, I believe what they say. They have all my trust from the beginning. Has that bitten me in the butt? Yes. I have run through many vendors believing they will deliver what they say they deliver and spent money, and they didn't. But you cannot move at the speed of trust if people have to earn it. It could take you years before you could earn it. And it's going to slow you down in your business, in your job, whatever it is you need to accomplish. So I have to make quick decisions. And I'm sure many of you have to make quick decisions. Do you know how long it's going to take me to get things moving if I wait for them to earn my trust? And that's easier for me to do because I've got other parts of this equation already figured out at this stage of this process. So I know that if I hired them and believed what they had to say, in other words, if I'm wrong, it's 100% my responsibility. That's the other side of this equation. 100% my responsibility. It's just like what I said at the very beginning. I'm 100% responsible for me. So if I have to make this decision because I am moving in so many directions, I cannot sit here and lament and double check and all of this. So I give you 100% of my trust. I am hiring you at this point, and I need to move faster, right? I made a bad call, let's say. I find that out in 3 months. I give them 3 months. I believe them for 3 months. I'm talking about a situation where I hire somebody, right? I went against my judgment. Maybe I had a gut feeling, but I did it. It's 100% my responsibility. Well, I cannot make them responsible. I made the decision. So here's the other part of that. I can't have a scarcity mindset. If I am operating in lack and limitation, then I see things as haves and have-nots, win or lose. And then I will mentally make decisions to scrape for every little morsel because there isn't enough of the pie to go around with a scarcity mindset, right? And the person who bit me, who screwed me, excuse my language, I shouldn't have said it that way, took part of my limited pie. Make sense? Because I had a scarcity mindset. I don't have the luxury of a scarcity mindset. Here's the other way I see it. If I have unlimited resources, I actually have unlimited resources. This is how I see it. I am the creator of the results in my life, and I am connected to my Father who watches over me and provides for me in every area that I have. Then I can do this. Then I can do this because I'm focused on unlimited resources. I'm the creator of the results. My Father watches over me and directs me. So when or if something happens, and now there's a need for a conversation, we can sit down and communicate, and I focus on declaring noble intent in my mind about them. Do you see how this works? I'm taking full responsibility. I'm trusting you. I'm making decisions. And then when it doesn't pan out, instead of going into drama, having not believing noble intent about them, making conclusions, all of that, we sit down and here's the communication part. And now I ask them, explain to me what happened. Can you explain to me what happened? You've been showing up late for 3 days. In fact, this literally happened. I hired you and you actually didn't show up. You didn't show up. She was 23. You didn't show up, and yet you still think you work here. That's real. Can you explain to me what happened, right? From my perspective, this is what I see, right? Some of you know what I'm talking about. You work through hiring people like this, right? So then I'm going to say, help me to understand. Help me to understand why you're not showing up, okay? And I'm not going to read anything into it. I need you to help me to understand. And I need you to understand how this is affecting me. Can you see how this is affecting me? Okay, so that means that I have to be willing to have a difficult, honest, possibly a long communication moment, which most people will avoid. Most people, they're going to just sweep it under the rug, aren't they? They're going to put on their mask, they're going to pretend it didn't happen, pretend it's not wounding them. It's going to fester. The resentment's going to fester. They didn't have the courage to sit down with someone and say, we need to talk about this. And you know what I see happening in the church a lot? Church people, we go, okay, I'll take all the responsibility. I'll take all the responsibility. The other person you're working with doesn't get any opportunity to grow. When we do that, we enable other people, and we don't grow because what we're doing is we're avoiding that difficult, honest conversation. All right. So when we operate in any four of these areas, we look to be a victim. And sometimes we set ourselves up to be wounded with our decision. There's fear and obligation in the mix. If you're making decisions from fear and obligation, and nothing grows. Nothing good grows from fear. Nothing good grows from obligation. When we say yes and we really did it because we feel obligated. And when you think about this, how many people in your life are playing this game? Maybe employees, maybe your teammates, maybe family members. And you're just aware. You're just unaware. You were unaware it's happening until now. You know, you either have to sit down and have this difficult conversation, communicate with love and honesty, and decide you can no longer let this be the culture of your life, or you can let it keep going. And the beautiful thing is, when you have these conversation exchanges, then people realize you have zero drama policy in your life. Zero drama policy. And we need to be sure we are not involved in creating it first. First us, then others. I have to cut the line on people. I've told clients I didn't think I could help them. Literally, I've told clients, I don't think I can help you. This was not a good fit because growth means change and being uncomfortable, and they didn't want to be uncomfortable. I've had to fire people, particularly the one who didn't show up and always had a reason for not showing up. Fire her, right? I had to cancel contracted vendors. They didn't produce what they said they could. And just say, this isn't a match. This isn't working, right? It's taking me a long time to get to this understanding. And I still don't like those challenging communication points because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. We don't want to hurt people's feelings, right? We're not helping them either. We're not growing. We're not helping them. But I can tell you that when I don't have these conversations, it ends up worse. It costs me as a business person or somebody running a nonprofit, it costs me more money. It costs me too much mental energy, which I need to invest in other things. And for those I kept on my team, they were not thriving. They have a core conviction. I have a core conviction that everything I do has a win-win in it. And if the other person isn't winning, I'm not happy. They're not happy. So when people allow these 4 pillars to run in their life, their office or their team, whether in their own life or around them, we open the door to feelings getting hurt. Actually, we're avoiding conversations and communications that are difficult because we don't want to hurt feelings. But when we let these pillars operate in their life, we are letting people's feelings get hurt because eventually it'll all start opening up. We open the door for people to get angry or negative emotions or major disconnection. And if we can just live in honesty with ourselves and determine that I'm going to be responsible for me and be hyper aware to these 4 things, you will remove about 90% of your opportunity to be offended. You will minimize the drama in your team or your family as well. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to look at those 3 categories, right? Those 4 pillar of relationships that we just walked through, right? And I want you to think about a communication point that you need to address. Is there anything in here that you need to address, guys? We're going to talk about difficult conversations, and maybe you haven't done it, right? Maybe you haven't done it. Are there any points of conversation in here that you need to have a conversation about? I'm going to put these suggestions in the chat right now. Right now, okay? And I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this person. We're going to do a little exercise. It's going to take 5 minutes to do a little neurological exercise. Do you guys trust me with this? Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture you having a conversation with the person that you know you need to have this difficult conversation with. You need to deal with the drama that you either witness or you're a part of, right? Close your eyes. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Robert. You're so funny. I had to call you out. That was really cute. Okay, so sorry. He just was like, okay, closing his eyes really tight. All right. So close your eyes and think of that person. This is really important that you see them across from you. You see their face. You see the way they're dressed. You see their countenance. Okay. And now I want you to think about the things that you are aware of about yourself, where you're showing up. Are you contributing to the drama? What's going on in your perspective? give it a minute. I want you to really pay attention to your perspective. You could even take inventory of how you've been hurt, what it is you need understanding about, whatever it is from your side. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to lift your brain out of your own head, travel over to the other person that's in front of you, and now you are in their head, looking out from their eyes, looking at you. Start taking inventory on how they feel. We are declaring they have noble intent. They're doing the best they can right where they're at. Start to pay attention. How do they feel? How are they viewing the conversation? What is their experience? I want you to take inventory of all of that. It's a whole nother perspective. You're looking at it from their vantage point. Now, when you think you've collected all the information there is, I want you to dig for a little bit more. What else do you tap into about this person? Okay, keep your eyes closed. We're still in this process. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take your brain, and you're now leaving the head of the other person you're talking to, and I want you to go from above. You're looking at it from God's perspective. How does he see it? What does he feel about this? What does he know that you don't know? And when you think you've collected all the data that he's downloading on you, as you look from his viewpoint, I want you to ask, is there anything more, Lauren? Is there anything more? All right, open your eyes. Write some notes down that you collected from the other person's perspective, from God's perspective. I'm going to give you a minute to just jot down some main points. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the breakout rooms. If you do not have something pop up for a room to go to, then I want you to stay here. But before you go to the room, listen to my instructions, okay? Now you have this person that you need to have a conversation with. I don't want you to share details. We don't want to throw anybody on the bus. We don't want to say who they are. But you just want to tell your partner when you get in the room, okay, this is I just need to talk about, this, and try to be as vague as possible about the circumstances, as long as you can still do what it is you need to do. Because what you're doing is you're practicing how to start this conversation. The partner, I want you to engage, and you're going to use the questions in the chat. You're going to say, okay, you can use them in any order. You don't need to use this order. You can say, I don't want to read into things. I hope you understand. This is how I'm feeling about things. Explain, help me to understand. Explain to me what happened, because I want to see things from your perspective. But I made you go through this neurological process because it's going to help calm you down in the situation if it's a little bit of a heated moment type of thing, or a heated relationship, or you're internally struggling. It just calms it down a little bit so that you can have a conversation where the other person is important, right? So use some of this language. You can use your own language. Your partner is going to play that role. Well, this is, just make it up, guys. Whatever they're saying, they felt, you just say, well, it's because I did it, blah, 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 right? When it's done, you go as far as you want to. The person who's instigating, you go as far as you want to. You have a time limit, but we want to make time for feedback. So your partner, this is so important. You're going to help your partner out by saying, well, when you said it this way, it made me feel this way. Good and not so good, right? So that you give them feedback, and then how could they say it differently? All right. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? All right. You can use different statements. These are just for your help. You don't have to use them in this order. It's just a little cheat sheet. Okay. All right. Lisa, you're staying here. All right, Lisa, we can get started. They're frozen. I'm going to pause this. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. How was that? It was kind of challenging to do it in such a short frame of work because you're trying to put your thoughts together. Did you guys have a chance to practice? Okay, if you didn't, I'm going to stay on. I'm happy to walk it through. And I do want to make the announcement that we have the group coaching time on Saturday from 9 to 11. You did get an email about that. There's going to be a second email going out. And listen, this is the stuff we're going to talk about, because I realize that I'm able to help people faster because I'm so versed in, like Lisa was talking about, right? Like, I understand the personality types. Now, that doesn't mean I do it excellent 100% of the time, because I'm a D. I get a little irritated and my flesh shows, and I'm just real like everybody else. But if I slow myself down and I step back, I'm much, much better at approaching people now. And Carol Hayashida can attest to I'm much better at approaching people now than I've ever been in my life. She's seen me in my big, ugly moments, right? So, on Saturday, I want you to come. I want you to put some thought into dynamics that you need to address. You are avoiding it, or you think it'll go away. Like, it's not like you think you're avoiding it. You just think it's going to go away. That's avoidance. Just so you didn't know, that's avoidance. And so bring it to the group coaching, and we'll do some in the whole group, and you guys can watch me talk about it. You're going to get a better understanding about how C's, D's, S's, I's are going to respond to different things, how they want things chunked up or chunked down, whatever it is, so that we all learn from that. Now, you don't have to disclose private information, the person's name, who they are in relationship to you. You're just going to communicate. I think they're I think they're a this, this is the scenario, right? And no, you can make up a fictitious person for the scenario, right? You get my point? So bring that on Saturday, and we're going to help each other navigate through having these conversations with people. Now, they're not going to be 100% foolproof, right? Because you're not in control of the other person. You are only in control of you. So the best we can do is navigate through the best way to approach it. And if it still doesn't work out, because that happens, then we just end up I'll talk about that on Saturday. I'm getting ahead of myself because now we're over time and I've lost track of time. I'm going to stay on. Anybody didn't get a chance to walk through their scenario, I'm here for you. Okay. Thank you for trusting me through this process. Thank you for being here. You guys are amazing. Robert, tell Laura she has got to go to the doctor before she gets on the plane. Okay. Oh, she's going now. Good. Okay. Bye. Bye.